went through and really spent some time knowing what was going on in the chat with the questions that we asked you all. And I don't remember exactly.
Amber, you muted yourself.
Amber, yeah, you muted yourself.
I think Zoom muted me because it was like, you are muted. Okay. What was the last thing you heard? Okay, I'll just start
Words.
over. So this was something from the chat that you all engaged in. So we went through them and we filtered through them. And some of these really stood out to us. So for this community of practice, we really wanted to kind of just check in. And I want us to kind of take a pause and kind of read some of these quotes and see if any of these are still connecting with you, or perhaps still feeling very real, or like somebody put, I'm tired. Like maybe some of y'all are still feeling that tiredness, that fatigue. So just kind of want to pause so we can kind of look at these quotes that you all stated in the chat from our last community of practice, which was about a month ago. And then Rauneisha, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Amber. So like Amber said, we've kind of found this thing that we're doing with the COP, right? So we do read the chat, we save the chat, we read the chat, we sift through and try to understand what are people saying in the chat. So just know that things that you all are saying in the chat will not be in vain. We are reading it. Sometimes it's like 100 pages worth, but we are reading it and sifting through it. Um, One of the things that really resonated with me was the I'm tired. I told Amber this morning, I woke up very exhausted. I woke up very drained. Usually I'm higher energy, but yeah, I woke up very tired. So seeing, someone else say that and, feeling that way as well, it was very interesting to hear and have these conversations last time we met about, these are all the issues that, people dropped in the chat, but I'm sure we can think of a million other um concerns that we have, but this was just some of the ones that we came across. So I want to give this space to let people raise their hands and just voice their opinions, voice their concerns, and talk about, do any of these resonate with you? And if you want to, if not, that's okay. But just wanted to leave space for that. I we all wear many different hats, right? I wear a lot of hats. I'm sure Amber wears a lot of hats. We all wear a lot of hats, right? So, as far as the COP goes, we're functioning at moving at the speed of relationships, but we also wanted to do a check-in. So, during my time in graduate school, we learned about this resource from Mark's Brackett's work on from his book, A Permission to Feel. And ultimately, Mark Brackett is a psychologist that studies feelings. He studies emotions. He studies all things people, right? As a psychologist, and how people think and how people feel. So we wanted to do an activity that kind of helps us to become more aware about how we're feeling, how we're doing, and then how we can use that same tool and then help other people, right? So I would like for you all to drop in a chat. If someone asked you how you are feeling, what would be your response? Would it be, I'm fine, I'm good? This can be a word, an emoji, it can be anything. Irritated, tired, yes, absolutely. Frustrated, those are words, yes. Yeah, all of these. I like that one. I'm good. That's my favorite one. I'm good. I'm fine. You know, so absolutely. Shrugs, that's a good one too. I love the shrugs. Absolutely. And they're coming. They're coming in, right? So these are all words to describe how we're feeling, how we're doing, right? So a part of this mood meter, it is to help us gauge how we're doing when we're lost for words, or if we're not necessarily lost for words, but just we don't even know how to explain, are we high energy, low energy, just how we're feeling. So what I'm going to ask everyone to do is, if you can, if you're able, I'm not going to ask anyone to close their eyes or anything like that, but I'm going to ask that if you have something in your hands, you just take everything out of your hands and you just sit, and you're going to inventory your body, right? So you're going to put your hands on your legs or down somewhere, and you're just going to breathe. Do a couple deep breaths in and out, and you're just going to do an inventory of your body to see how are you feeling, right? So we're going to start with that. We're going to do a couple deep breaths. We're going to do 3 deep breaths, okay? So okay. So those were our deep breaths, right? So with this mood meter, we're going to ask you if you're able to look, don't focus on the words. Don't focus on the 4 quadrants. Do not focus on the colors. Focus on the middle part of it. It says the in between, right? So first, I want to ask you all, are you feeling high energy or low energy? And so what does that mean? So when you did an inventory of your body, right? Are you kind of antsy a little bit? Are you kind of, you feel a lot of movement, like, or are you just kind of, you're feeling a little bit down? And this is not down as in depressed or anything like that. It's just high energy or low energy. An example of this might be, yesterday I was very high energy. I had caffeine. I was bouncing all over the place. I was in meetings just full of flight of ideas, right? Today, I'm feeling a bit more lower, which is okay, right? Um, we want to understand the difference between high energy and low energy, okay? So those 2 things. I see some dropping in the chat. Middle-ish, absolutely, okay? Low for sure. Low energy, okay? Middle-ish. Roller coaster, yeah, sometimes you can go through a ton of emotions in a day. I see high energy, yep. All over the place, absolutely, Raymond. Absolutely. High energy yesterday. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So now that we've understood the high energy and the low energy, what we're going to do is now ask you, from left to right, are you feeling low pleasantness or high pleasantness? Are you more so kind of like in the blue area, or are you more so like in the high pleasantness area? And sometimes you can be in the middle. And also understand, you don't have to answer these questions. This is just the way for a tool for you to understand, how are you feeling? How are you able to identify your own feelings, right? And so we have some people saying low pleasantness, low, high, right? I would say right now, I am probably so in the middle. I'm closer to high pleasantness, so I would say maybe relaxed, maybe mellow, very very mindful, very demure, as people would say. So that's kind of where I am right now. So just understanding, where do you fall on this spectrum? Because emotions are a spectrum. That's why some people are saying in the chat, we kind of drifting back and forth, going, a little bit here and there. You can experience a wide range of emotions throughout the day, but it's being able to understand those emotions that's going to help us kind of figure out what we're doing, right? And where we're trying to go. So now that we kind of have identified our emotions, I want to give some space if anyone would like to kind of elaborate on how feeling, word that they come up with on this mood meter, and kind of just leave space for anyone that would like to speak. If you don't want to speak, that's okay. But we will ask that if anybody would like to come off mute, please raise their hand. Yes, very demure, very cutesy. Yes, absolutely. And we're gonna pause the recording here so that if anybody
we were able to kind of label our emotions a little bit based on high energy or low energy. So this other tool here, this kind of just explains the ruler method for being able to express your feelings on the mood meter. So the first one is to be able to recognize your mood or emotion. Rauneisha beautifully walked us through that. And then being able to understand why we feel that way. Some folks are putting in the chat, right? Like, I'm feeling this way, or I'm feeling a little bit in between, and this is why. Being able to label it as and try to be as specific as possible. And then expressing how we're feeling, right? So, is it your body? Do you need to relax? Do you need to take a few breaths? Do you need to go for a walk? And then regulating. So what strategies will we use to feel more of this? You know, if we're feeling that high energy and we feel good, or feeling that we want to feel that we don't want to feel that way, right? So if you feel comfortable, I would love for you all to, I know we put the words of how you were feeling in the chat, but let's just use colors now if that's something that you're able to do, or you can write the color in the chat. So the feelings on the four quadrants, right? So the upper left quadrant, if you're feeling in that red, maybe put a red apple or a red heart or a fire emoji in the chat. If you're feeling on the yellow, maybe you can do a yellow apple or a yellow heart, or you can write write yellow. And same thing for the blue and the green. You can either write the word blue or green. So I'll say the colors. So the top left is red. The top right is yellow. The bottom left is blue. And the bottom right is green for accessibility purposes. And just so we can kind of see where the group is as far as like the mood meter. And again, you have these resources in the chat. Thank you, Sabrina, for putting those in. And we will also share these in an email or in a follow-up email if you don't have it yet. So you can use this with your team or with other groups that you facilitate conversations. So another resource that the Office of Equity has, this is from our relational partnership workbook. It's page 25 to be specific. So I want us to just take a minute to kind of look at this 30 days of healing. So based on kind of how y'all were feeling, if this is something that you want to incorporate starting today, starting tomorrow, in order to just, you know, kind of help us just feel good or feel maybe challenged as well. Um, so I know one of these that stands out to me is like 8 hours of sleep. That's something as a mother I usually don't get, but that might be a little bit hard for me to obtain, right? So, but there's a lot of other things on here that I'm like, okay, I could probably do one of these tomorrow. You don't have to do these, you know, Monday through Friday. It could also be kind of like a calendar if you wanted to like check it off. It's a really neat resource. I personally haven't used it, but after today, I'm definitely going to be using this. So I just want you all to pause, see if anything here kind of stands out to you. And I haven't been reading the chat, so I'm going to do that right now if I can find it on the Zoom. Let's see.
Amber, there were a lot of emojis that were dropped in the chat. We have some apples. We have, I don't know if that's celery or broccoli. It's green. So we have some birds. We have a lot of different people that's dropping a lot of different colors and emojis in the chat. So that is kind of what's going in the chat right now. So once again, Sabrina has starred the relational partnership workbook. She has dropped the link in the chat, and this is located on page 25 as well, for the relational partnership workbook. So I think that, you know, understand, like Amber described the 30 days of healing as a bingo chart. Do not think that it's necessarily you have to do all of these things, but it's just a way of us to, a way for us to understand how we're feeling, how then we can help other people when we're kind of having those things, big feelings or big emotions, and to help us kind of work towards a healing process, whatever that looks like in real time. I'll start by sharing for something for me earlier this morning how I plan to use this 30 days of healing. And this is not necessarily something that is on here, but these are just ideas and loose ideas of some things that you can do. But I asked my boss, Nick Van, I said, hey, after this COP, can I take the rest of the day out? Um, just doing that inventory, sometimes we know that it takes a lot out of us to be in a space, to give so much, and, to be able to identify that, hey, I need some time. I need to be able to decompress. I need to be able to kind of have that space a little bit. And even if he was like, oh, we got a lot going on, granted, he was very supportive. So that's what I will be doing for myself. But one thing that I like to do also is go for a walk, remove myself from my computer, and just actually leave from your physical office, whether that's in a physical space or if you're remote, if you're at home, but just going outside and removing yourself from that environment that you're in that helps a little bit um, with kind of shifting those emotions and getting you to an alternate space, right? Um, Also, a part of the two documents that were sent out prior to this email, they have a list of resources or they have a list of questions to help you understand your own feelings, but also help you understand um, how other people may be feeling. So just know that the two handouts that were sent with this presentation are great tools and resources to add to your calendars or add to your toolkit, whatever you would like to. I saw calendar in the chat, so my apologies. Add to your toolkit to help you inventory your own feelings as well as inventory other people's feelings as well and help with that. So um, with that being said, Amber, can you move on to the next one? Thank you. So we talked about a lot today, and it was some heavy information. It was a lot of feelings, a lot of self-inventory. So we wanted to be mindful of we understand that everyone comes to this space with their own traumas. They come to this space with their own feelings, emotions, and or mental health issues. So a part of my background is that I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And I wanted to make sure that we're equipping people with the resources. So if you are having any problems, mental health issues, 988 is a great resource for crisis intervention. Sabrina has also dropped in the chat, if you are a state employee, EAP, which is Employee Assistance Program, a lot of different organizations have an EAP program. So please make sure that you are taking care of yourself during this current climate. But we wanted to share those resources um, so that you all have that in part of your toolkit as well. 988 and or employee assistance program and a friend if you need it as well. Thank you, Morgan, for being vulnerable. I too also suffer from panic attacks. So I completely empathize with you and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that as well. So with that being said, Amber, would you like to continue?
Yeah, thank you everyone for your vulnerability and really just being engaged. Our next community practice will be September 18th. Just a reminder, there will be no COP in October, but we hope to see you at the Office of Equity convening that's happening in Yakima. And yeah, please sign up and come if you're available. And this is the post survey that Rauneisha was talking about earlier. So, we want this to be your space. And we want us to be, as collaborative as possible. And any feedback, or if you would like to present, please add this to the post survey. I'll have, if somebody can put the link in the chat, that would be great. Or feel free to use the QR code. Again, we'll still email this out. And I believe we have time for Q&A, but I just want to stop sharing for a minute so I can see y'all's beautiful squares on the screen. And I just want to say thank you to Rauneisha for leading this session today. This is something that she is very, very passionate about. And this is really her bread and butter. So I just really want to say thank you to Rauneisha for being able to lead us through this conversation. And if we can just give her some love, heart emojis, and just want to say that I'm grateful for her and for her leading the community practice. I really am just here as support, and I just love watching Rauneisha do her thing. So thank you to Rauneisha, and just thank you everyone for being engaged, sharing, being vulnerable with us, and just really excited. And for those of you that this was your first COP, welcome to the space, and we hope to see you next time.
Hey, Amber, I'm going to ask you to go back to the screen with the QR code so that people can see the survey as well. So you might have to share your screen again. Also, thank you. Thank you for that. We just talked about how this is a selfless job, and we give a lot. We give a lot to this, and we want this space to be as community oriented and focused as possible. So we welcome constructive feedback. We welcome whatever you are willing to, and we read all of these things. We read all of the suggestions that you have as well. I know that it was moving a bit fast in the chat. So if Sabrina, you can add the link to for the QR or for the link for the post survey in the chat, that would be helpful as well. But if not, there is the post survey QR code. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to off chat. Please raise your hand. We'll hang around until 12:30. But if not, feel free to have 11 minutes of your day back and please practice some self-care and take care of yourselves. But if not, we'll hang around and figure out, what's going on and figure out what we got to do. Sabrina has dropped it in the chat as well for the post survey.